This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That is right. Welcome in another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we are breaking down District 5 and 6 activities week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney. We are joined, as always, by our East Idaho expert, Sean Kane. Sean, what's going on?
Well, I didn't mention to you this before we got on, but I have a little bit of a rant to go on, and that's this is my call to arms per se. But when you go to basketball games, you don't need to yell at the refs the whole time. It's already started off pretty bad. I've done 3 or 4 games, and so my plea to the community is, no one's impressed. No one's impressed that you know the referee's name. No one's impressed for you yelling at them the whole game. That's just my rant. I'm like, just come to the game, enjoy it, and be thankful that we have referees.
I'm so dismayed to hear that because the season just started. And why is it? Basketball always seems to be worse than football in terms of fans and their behavior towards referees. It probably seems worse because we're all jammed into one building and you can hear things a little better. Whereas in football, for the most part, the bleachers are pretty far removed from the actual field of play. But man, you've done girls basketball, boys basketball. We won't say which teams. I mean, people can really figure that out if they want to, but man, that's a bummer. I don't like to hear that.
And I love basketball, and I know basketball is your jam. And honestly, once basketball gets going, I love basketball too. And and it's not just me. And talking to some other people in the sporting arena, they have felt it already too. And I kind of got my rant from Scott Burton's thought this week, and I'm like, the thought should be don't yell at the ref. I mean, I get it, everyone. I mean, I get excited too, but I'm not yelling at them. It's absolutely valid to be excited and be part of the game, but you don't need to yell at the ref over and over and over. And yelling over the back, or we'll just leave it at that. Yelling over the back, we don't need it. First of all, it's not actually a call, and it's not over the back every play.
Yeah, so the over the back doesn't exist. There's nowhere in the rule book that says if the rebounder goes over the back of the other, a foul should be called. You know what? If you're taller and you can jump higher and you don't interfere with the other player's ability to rebound, you absolutely can get the rebound from behind the player. That's totally legal play.
Yeah, that's the athleticism. If someone's just can jump higher, run faster, that's part of the game. That's why they play the game, to compete at the level. So yeah, the over the back, man, was killing me. Killing me. And then we just started, but let me tell you it's been great. And then I guess I want to make it more positive. I'm just really thankful for the refs we have in East Idaho. I get to know a lot of them throughout the course of the year, and a lot of the same refs do football and basketball and baseball, and it's the same guys, and I'm very thankful for them. They've done an excellent job handling the shot clock change, the new foul rules per quarter. They communicate with people very well. They're not yelling at anyone. Every once in a while there's still a shot clock mistake because it's a human run thing, right? There's human error, and they're just, oh no, we'll go. They're just so nice and understandable, and they're really out there trying to teach the players, the game too. So they're it's very nice to have them there, right? You wouldn't want to go watch the game without them.
Yeah, they are. And that's a good way to tie into Thanksgiving, right? Very thankful for everybody that volunteers to be an official for sure. So yeah, if you're one of those fans that's yelling at the refs, knock it off. Seriously. Nobody's impressed. Stop it.
That was my thing. It came up when I was talking to a couple of coaches. I'm just not impressed that you know their name. Like no one's impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one who's going to be impressed is the people that are taking you to leave, So, and I know athletic directors are kind of more and vice principals and principals are more proactive about this now, that they're just not going to put up with it. They're going to go and, you don't have to come to the game. You don't have to play sports. It's an opportunity. And you should use your opportunity wisely.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. That's good. Hey, I'm glad you got that off your chest. I wouldn't want you to hang on to that and lash out at somebody. So I'll send you a bill for the therapy session later. Speaking of things that cost money, you can, of course, view this Prepcast each and every week in a number of different ways, or consume it, I guess. You can listen online at IdahoSports.com. Across the top of the homepage, there is a little tab that says Prepcasts on it. From there, there's a drop-down menu with all of our Prepcast offerings. You click on East Idaho Prepcast, and it takes you to a page with a built-in player. You can listen to it there. You can also download this podcast wherever you download your podcasts, whether that's Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, etc. You can also watch the Prepcast every week, of course, on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page as well. Sean was talking to the old boss, Paul Kingsbury, earlier this week, and he said, first of all, I asked, hey, we had a really crazy fall sports season. How about getting some raises or a little bonus for us Prepcasters? He said, no, I've spent the money elsewhere. He apparently we upgraded to a higher definition of video quality on the Prepcasts. Oh. So your viewing experience may be enhanced. I have no idea. It all looks the same to me on the back end, so I'll have to actually go watch on YouTube, I guess.
I don't know if I need to be enhanced, but
right. So anyways, that is a new wrinkle that'll be added to the Prepcast, and otherwise we are off and running into the winter sports season. Now, one final nod to our fall sports athletes, Sean, at IdahoSports.com. It is our goal to post and publish every all-conference team, from boys soccer, girls soccer, volleyball, and football. We've got all the soccer and volleyball all conference teams that we have been given so far up on our site. I'm working on football. I'll get there. I'm only one guy, but just keep checking back at IdahoSports.com. Some people ask Sean, hey, where's this league? Or how come this district didn't have an all conference team? It's up to the coaches. Some coaches just decide not to do it. And honestly, a lot of District 5 conferences, for whatever reason, don't do all conference teams. So that's why they're missing. They either haven't done it, or we've reached out to a lot of different coaches and we just haven't heard back. So.
And I think a lot of that in District 5 is it used to be kind of a newspaper run thing. Like the newspaper would call the coaches and get the votes together. They were kind of the mediator of that. And I don't think they really have that anymore. So I think that could be a way. So I'm not sure how they're all coming together to vote, if some AD's in charge of it all or not. But I know that the newspaper used to kind of handle the running of that. So I imagine that kind of transition is probably the delay.
I see. Well, it's it's getting tougher and tougher for newspapers, especially in District 5, and to get somebody there that can actually reach out to coaches and things like that. So anyways, so we've got the all conference teams from the fall sports season on our website, IdahoSports.com, but we also have great winter sports content, right? Our girls basketball previews launched really 2 weeks ago, but last week is when everybody really started flocking to the site to read those. Our first girls basketball coaches poll of the year is now up on the site. We'll talk about that here in just a second as well, Sean. But what's coming up? Boys basketball previews will start to trickle in at the end of this week and over the weekend. And by next Monday, we should have all of our boys basketball previews up on the site. And then the following week, Sean, Al Fontes, our great wrestling contributor, is working on a big, meaty, all-encompassing wrestling season preview, and that is coming in 2 weeks. It takes a long time to get all this data put together for all of our previews. We're always about a week behind the actual start of the season, but lots of good things coming to IdahoSports.com with basketball and wrestling, and specifically, Sean, our Matt Chat Prepcast is returning, where myself and Al Fontes and Jacob Eck and Brian Zollinger, really cast of thousands. We do it live. It's going to be every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Mountain Time on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page, and then we'll drop in the audio the next day into the podcast feed. But this is by far our most popular Prepcast, Sean. The wrestling community turns out, they tune in live every week. Really,
Questions, they ask questions. I like the question part of it.
Yeah.
So it's really great to turn in live because they'll ask you guys questions and you get the live answers right there. It's probably the most live, action sports show in Idaho. Really, I love answering the questions live. I think that's great.
Yeah, really what I tell the fans is that, hey, you're kind of the hosts of the show. You're going to steer the conversation wherever you want to steer it. And we're just here to take your questions and talk about some bigger picture things. So all you wrestling diehards, that is coming back starting next Tuesday. That will be December 5th, 8:00 p.m. Mountain Time on IdahoSports.com. The Matt Chat Prepcast will be back for another season, our second season there. All right. All that admin stuff out of the way, Sean, let's talk about actual things that happened. Our first girls basketball coaches polls of the season came up on the site earlier today, as I mentioned. And really, taking a look at the first, because now, some teams have played, 6 or 7 games, which I hate. Some have played like 1 or 2. So until we really get to January and the schedules balance out, it is kind of hard to stack up the win-loss totals. But here's what we've got from East Idaho. 5A girls, Rigby checks in at number 4. They're a perfect 5-0. In the 4A coaches poll, Shelley is the number 1 team. They're off to a 3-0 start this year. Let's just go classification by classification. That might be easier. Rigby 5-0. They check in at number 4 in the poll. They're the overwhelming favorite. They've got Cambry Barber back. They've got Miley Graham, Kinsley Larson. That's a good, trio to start with.
Yeah, I think Rigby will end up higher in that poll, I think, as the season goes on. I think, we got to see them live last year at state. And man, they were a good team. They had to play a really good Thunder Ridge team for the 18th time. And yeah, I like Rigby really, really outperforming whatever their rank is at the moment.
Yeah, and really none of their games have been close. I mean, every single game has been won by 20 plus points. They've swept Bonneville twice. They've also beaten Idaho Falls, Hillcrest, and Blackfoot. And you might be thinking, no, that's just all 4A teams. So what? Blackfoot and Hillcrest and Idaho Falls are not bad teams. So Rigby really opening some eyes. We're really going to find out, Sean, this weekend, what Rigby's all about, because they are hosting Centennial on Friday night and then a Owyhee Saturday afternoon. That Owyhee Rigby game is going to really tell us a lot about where the Trojans stand on a statewide level.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Hawaii's a team coming in with a high rank. They've got some great players. So, if Rigby can take that out early, that's going to say a lot moving forward.
Yeah, there's a couple of Boise teams coming over. Highland is also, they're hosting Middleton on Friday, and they're hosting Timberline on Saturday. And we know what kind of program Timberline is, right? They're a perennial participant at state for sure there. And then Thunder Ridge is also kind of in this hosting deal, right? They're going to host a Owyhee Friday night and then Centennial Saturday afternoon as well. And I'm trying to think of who the other partner with Highland is. Might be one of the 4As. But for the 5A schedule, some of the Boise schools are going to be invading East Idaho this weekend. So that should be really fun to watch. 4A coaches poll, Sean. Shelley checks in at number 1. Well-deserved. They're off to a 3-0 start. They got all the way to the championship game last year. Sandpoint, the team that beat them for the title, is at number 3. They've only played 1 game. They're 1-0. So I think that's a big reason why. Pocatello, I was pretty surprised, not in the poll. Skyline is, though. Skyline got the number 5 slot, and they're off to a 2-0 start.
I think that's because Skyline beat Pocatello, and then Minico, who's number 4, also has beaten Pocatello. And yeah, but yeah, Shelley, definitely you see them there. You know what they bring to the table. I think that poll is going to change a lot over the year. I think again we're going to see that District 6 4A conference is going to be just a nightmare to kind of predict probably every night. And Skyline, Skyline was strong last year. They come back with pretty much all their players, except for one player got hurt from volleyball. So I know they're trying to fill that hole. Amy
Basic.
Basic, yeah, kind of their post inside. So if they can kind of fill that hole, and the Shippen sisters, I mean, that's a tough team any way you slice it. So I think the 4A is just going to be crazy.
Yeah, Skyline, a pair of wins over Thunder Ridge and Madison. They actually get conference play started on Thursday, November 30th, when they will host Bonneville at the Taj McGrizz. So conference opener for Skyline coming up. For Shelley, very impressive start to the year. They've beaten the three teams. They'd be in first place in District 5, Sean. They've beaten Century, Preston, and Pocatello, all three. And they got their first conference win last night over Bonneville, 66-17. So the Russets are 4-0, and they're 1-0 in conference play. So that's a good start there for Shelley. Really, the big game that I'm looking forward to is next Wednesday, Shelley at Blackfoot. Blackfoot, you'll remember, actually won the district tournament last year over Shelley. Shelley had to fight their way just to get to state. So next Wednesday, that's the big game I'm circling on the calendar.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Definitely. Yeah. In Blackfoot, got the number 1 seed, lost first round, and it almost seemed kind of like a good thing for Shelley. I feel like they got a better half of the draw, but none of that really matters now, right? We're in a new year, new time. You got to get there. You got to win the games.
Right. And Shelley did come down to Pocatello right before Thanksgiving, and then they did get a 53-46 win, a nice 7-point victory. I'm really looking forward to the rematch, Sean. It comes on December 12th in Shelley. That's a game that, we're starting to build the broadcast schedule for IdahoSports.com. We might have to send you there for that one, Sean, to broadcast.
And Shelley, yeah, I'm like the king of Shelley, I feel like. No, I'm the king potato of Shelley.
Their mascot it's that potato, right? With the royal scepter and the crown and the royal cape. That's you. The artist rendering for that potato was from you, Sean.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like that. Anytime we do a girls game though in Shelley, it always seems to be a battle. We had that just outright amazing game between Shelley and Skyline last year. So yeah, I'd be welcome to it.
Yeah, for sure. 3A coaches poll. Snake River number 1. No surprise. They're 4-0. Teton and Sugar Salem both check in as well, though. Teton at number 3, Sugar at number 4. Teton's 4-0. Sugar is 3-0. Snake River played last night, Sean, against Soda Springs, which we know is a really good 2A program, right? They got all the way to the 2A state championship game last year. The fact that Snake River won didn't surprise me necessarily, but the margin of victory I thought was pretty shocking. And I don't think it says anything that Soda Springs is bad. I think Snake River is just that good. They won 62-28. The final.
Yeah, I'd lean to that. I would lean to more that Snake River is just really good, and they're going to play Sugar Salem. That should be interesting. But when I look down at Snake River's schedule, that when they play Blackfoot, that always becomes a battle. They're less than a couple miles away from each other, but it'll be interesting to see how they compete against the 4A team. But I think Snake River could compete with many of the 4A schools, just by the amount of players they have on their team this year.
Yeah, and so among Snake's 4-0 start, the win over Soda Springs, the win over Kimberly, who we think is going to be pretty good from District 4 this year. They won that one pretty handily as well, 66-21. And then they did beat Blackfoot as well, their rivals right there in the same town, 40-36. So they beat the 4A Broncos by 4. I mean, we're going to find out in a week who the best 3A team in East Idaho is, Sean, because we talked about Snake, Sugar, Teton, all ranked in the coaches poll. Snake will play Sugar Salem. They're actually hosting the Diggers Thursday night, 7:30. And then the following Friday, December 8th, they're going to travel to Teton. So, I mean, we're going to find out pretty quick what the hierarchy in East Idaho 3A hoops is.
Yeah, and just really good games coming up early. So I always like to look at what happens the second time around, but it'll be definitely fun to see these games, how they come to fruition.
Yeah, and of course, Sugar and Teton are going to be battling all year long for supremacy in District 6. They won't play each other until way into the new year, 2024. 2A coaches poll, Sean, in the top 5 from East Idaho, not Soda Springs, but 2 of its district rivals, Malad and Bear Lake. Each are off to 3-0 starts. And we talked about Malad got a lot of preseason hype. They were actually picked tied for first in our preseason conference coaches poll, along with Soda Springs.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. It was kind of surprising, but Malad off to that 3-0 start. And again, that conference, that Southeast Idaho conference, is always so tough with Bear Lake, Malad, Soda Springs. Westside wasn't too bad last year either, but I think they've lost some talent, so it might be a little of a struggle. But all those teams are always battling it out.
Yeah, and we will get to, if you want to see Malad in action, they're going to be playing our first kind of holiday tournament in East Idaho coming up this weekend for girls hoops. We will talk about that more in just a second here. But I did also want to mention from that district 5, Bear Lake also off to a good 3-0 start, and they were a team that came on strong at the end of last year. They got a couple of upsets at districts. Ken Wells is the coach there. They're a very capable team also.
Yeah, Bear Lake beat American Falls, Firth, who is also a good team, and then they beat Grace 49-38 just Tuesday on the 21st. So off to a 3-0 start is always really good. I like that first win in the back of my mind.
Yeah, that's a pretty big win. And speaking of District 6, coaches weren't really sure what to make of that in the preseason poll. We talked about it. Firth was kind of picked high. North Fremont was picked high. Ryrie was picked high. So, to be determined still how this is all going to play out. We mentioned that Bear Lake, what do they have coming up? A pair of games against Grace. Really good 1A D1 team. They played Grace last night and won 49-38. That just doesn't happen a lot to Grace. They played that before Thanksgiving, and then they'll play Grace again Thursday night. So can the Grizzlies get some revenge there in that rematch? I wouldn't bet against it. Grace is a really well coached team by Coach Christensen, and that's going to be a good rematch in Grace Thursday night.
Yeah, that's a jam-packed schedule, right? Grace versus Grace. You have a little turkey, a little bit of Grace.
That's right.
Grace before and Grace after.
Yeah, you should always start your turkey and finish it with a little grace for sure. Okay, we talked about Malad. They're going to be competing at the first kind of holiday tournament of the season, Sean. It is the Ryrie Bulldogs Shootout. This is going to be a really fun tournament. They did this last year for the first time. It was a little 8-team affair. And they're adding a boys tournament next week to the competition this year. Also, Matt Harris, the athletic director at Ryrie, does a great job. But here are the matchups, Sean. It's an 8-team tournament. It starts on Thursday morning, and we've got Marsh Valley against Firth in the first game. And then that's followed by Ambrose against Malad. And then on the bottom half of the bracket, you've got West Jefferson against Declo. And then in the nightcap, it's Wendell against Ryrie. So you're looking at a field of 7 Class 2A teams plus Class 3A Marsh Valley. This is a really good, pretty balanced tournament.
Yeah, that's I have to give a shout out to Matt Harris, who's the PA announcer at the Mini Dome for the championship games. He did a great job. So shout out to him, but shout out to him for coming up with a good tournament. And the teams really benefit from these tournaments. So I think when it comes down the line, when you have to get into districts and the state, the tournaments are just so important. And you just kind of have to learn you got to come back the next day and play and compete no matter what happens.
Yeah, I think selfishly, the matchups I want to see in the semifinals are Firth versus Malad and then Declo versus Ryrie, just because I think all of those teams are going to be pretty good and have a good chance to get to state this year. So that'll be a good data point for us to use when we're evaluating. My official predictions for this one, Sean, I'll go with Malad versus Declo in the championship, and I will take the Dragons. That's kind of my official on-the-record prediction of how this Ryrie Bulldogs shootout is going to go, but we'll see.
All right. Yeah. I might go Firth. I'll say Firth.
Okay. should be a lot of fun though. That's for sure. So that's what's happening at the 2A ranks. 1A D1, Sean, we talked about it. Grace comes in along with Butte County. Grace is ranked second in the coaches poll currently, 3-1. Lone setback was to Bear Lake. And Butte County got votes. I mean, they're close to breaking through here. But really right now, the 1A is dominated by District 4. They had 3 teams in the top 5. And again, we talked about it between Grace and Butte County. Only one team's going to go to state. Butte County's really going to have to elevate their game if they want to knock Grace from that top perch.
Yeah, it's going to kind of be the same scenario for volleyball, right? Both teams are really good for volleyball. Only one got to go. You're really going to have to batten down the hatches as the season goes on.
Yeah. And so Butte County is actually heading to a holiday tournament of their own, Sean. They're going to go to Cary. This is an interesting little 4-team holiday tournament in Cary, Sean. The participants are Wood River, a Class 4A school. Okay. And then you've got Butte County, a 1A D1, Cary, which is a 1A D1, and then Rockland is going to be there as well. So a 1A D2. So you got 3 1A schools and then Class 4A Wood River. Now, Wood River's coming because it's A, really close to Cary, and B, Wood River's girls program is really struggling. And so it'll be a good, fun little 4-team tournament taking place this weekend in Cary also.
Yeah, in the first round, it's Butte County versus Rockland. I find that kind of an intriguing matchup that you'd maybe never see, right? So it'll be kind of neat to see what happens there.
Yeah, and we should mention Cary is also hosting a boys holiday tournament in conjunction with this girls. Same teams, same matchups. So also on the boys side, Rockland's going to play Butte County, and then Cary will play Wood River. So looking forward to the competition there. And then, Rockland is a 1A D2 school, Sean, in the 1A D2 coaches poll. Leadore, the only team from East Idaho to make the top 5. Leadore off to a 3-0 start, but look at all the teams that received votes. Grace Lutheran, Mackey, Rockland, Water Springs, Taylor's Crossing. So that's, 5 teams in the district receiving votes. This league's going to be wild and unpredictable all year.
Yeah, Grace Lutheran started off 3-0. Leadore's 3-0 right now. Then everyone else is kind of a little different, but it's gonna be wild to see where this comes out. Now, yeah, I have to give you credit. You've been talking about Leadore for a couple of years, and this might be their year to take this conference.
Yeah, it's interesting with Leadore. They've got a great coach in Janet Proul, and they just said goodbye to 2 basically 4-year starters, kind of the heartbeat of the program for the last 4 years. So they said goodbye to Mackenzie Mackey and Sadie Bird to graduation. And those are tough losses to overcome, but they bring back like basically everybody else. And so Coach Proul kind of said like, hey, if we can try to not be the Mackey and Bird show like we were last year, if we just find our own identity and really lean into that, like, I think we're going to be pretty good again. And I think that's going to be their biggest key is, don't try to replicate the style or the success you had the last couple of years with those incredible seniors. You can be a great team doing it your own way. And so far, I mean, they've beaten Salmon twice, which is a 2A school. They've beaten Chalice, a 1A D1. We're going to find out Thursday, Sean. This is a gargantuan matchup here. It is Leadore at Mackey, conference opener Thursday evening. This is a huge matchup.
Yeah, Mackey and Rockland have kind of been the predominant powers, I think, in this conference for girls basketball, and it'll be interesting to see where that pans out. Mackey lost to Oakley and has a win over Chalice, so should be pretty interesting.
And Oakley's good. I mean, they got all the way to the championship last year in 1A D1. This game, I think, actually will not count towards the league standings.
Take the second one.
Yeah, because this conference is so big, you don't get to play everybody twice. So the second matchup will count in the league standings. But this will be a good measuring stick, because those two teams were 1 and 2 in our preseason coaches poll for this conference. So, man, I am like in my nirvana here talking basketball with Sean Kane. I
Full
love
court press, 3-point shots.
Right? Oh, there's so much good basketball action off and running. And of course, IdahoSports.com is always going to be your best source for what's going on hoops wise with scores. We get most of the scores in the night of action, and by certainly the first thing I do every morning when I wake up, Sean, is I go shake down coaches in the 80s for the scores we're missing. So we have, 95% of the scores in by midday the following day. And you're just not going to find that anywhere else. Okay. You're not going to find that from any other source that you would go to try and figure out who won which game. So IdahoSports.com continues to be your number one source for scores, schedules, that type of info.
Yeah. And I can tell you, hands down, coaches appreciate it too. The coaches go look at the previews. They go look at this, they know they're going to find the most accurate scores. And, oh yeah, we forgot this guy was on the team. Thanks for the preview, Brandon Baney. So it's not just for the fans, it's for the players. The players get on there all the time too, and coaches. So yeah, don't look anywhere else.
Yep. So lots of good stuff at IdahoSports.com. You just want to check back there every single day. One more note here on the basketball side of things, Sean. We talked about all these great holiday tournaments, first tournaments of the season in the regular season taking place. There is a tournament we will be broadcasting on IdahoSports.com, Sean, the first annual Capital Classic. Capital High School in Boise is hosting this 8-team tip-off. It's a boys basketball tournament. The games are going to be played at Northwest Nazarene University, NNU, over there in Nampa. And among the field, one team traveling from the east, Blackfoot, will be going over to compete. So here's the field, Sean. It is Blackfoot from the east. Other 4A teams are Bishop Kelly and Ridgeview from the Boise area. You've got 4 5A teams competing there in Capital and Bora. And then also Post Falls and Lewiston are making the trip down. And then you've got this juggernaut from Oregon coming over, the Baker Bulldogs from Baker City. This is going to be really good, tough competition for Blackfoot.
Yeah, way to throw yourself into the fire, right? You're starting off with a 5A opponent, and pretty much the chances of you playing another one is pretty high, regardless of how it pans out. But yeah, good scheduling for Blackfoot Broncos to get that competition early in the season.
Yeah, so Blackfoot will start the tournament. This all starts Thursday on IdahoSports.com. You can catch every single game of the tournament for free on IdahoSports.com. So if you're a hoops junkie and you're just looking for a way to fill your Thursday, Friday, Saturday, definitely check out the Capital Classic on IdahoSports.com. They're going to play the host school from Capital to start off. I'm telling you, that Capital team is tough. Their coach, Blas Teleria, oh man, he's a good coach. And so, going to be a tough challenge for Blackfoot right out of the gates. And speaking of tough challenges, how about Preston and Hillcrest meeting up in boys hoops to get the season rolling? Hillcrest gets a 56-53 win. That was in Preston, right?
Yeah, it was in Preston.
Wow.
And it's kind of become an annual game where they kind of flip-flop it. They'll go either to Hillcrest first or Preston first, but it's becoming a pretty normal scheduling game, and I always kind of forget about it. And I caught it last night, and man, what a great game. Very close. Hillcrest down 2 of its best players, Isaac Davis and Ike Sutton, didn't compete in that contest. It did look, however, like they were on the bench, so I don't know if they didn't have their practices or whatever, but Taylor Talon of Hillcrest poured in 24 points and kind of led Hillcrest to a victory. But besides that, what it makes me believe is Preston's pretty good. And not that we ever thought that they weren't, but they lost a few guys. They're a young team. Obviously the coach's son has been playing for a few years, but besides that, they're still kind of young. But man, Coach Jones just knows how to get that squad going, and they looked good. And just a few things go a different way at the end of that game, and Preston wins. But man, it's 4A basketball, boys basketball is in East Idaho is always so intriguing. and it's fun to see that matchup early, and they'll play again later. And I can't wait to see what happens there. But yeah, Hillcrest, the defending champions, and Preston usually hasn't been to state the last couple of years due to just how the districts are, but a top 5 team in theirself, and they have a chip on their shoulder. I think they want to be at state pretty bad.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, Preston's good. Tyler Jones, the coach, Drew Jones, his son. And then it's all these names that we're used to seeing over the Knapp and Harris. And it's just the younger brothers. The next generation coming through. We're working on our boys basketball previews, right? And I send a preview form out to every coach in the state. And most of them are pretty good about sending them back. Shout out to Coach Ryan Frost from Century for finally getting his in. Joe Green, the coach at Pocatello, sent his back in. And one of the questions we always ask is like, hey, which team in the conference could surprise this year? Who's not on our radar that should be? And Coach Green responded. He goes, well, it's not really a surprise, but Preston's going to be really good again. So
that's kind of what I was alluding to is they're always good, right? But I think they're maybe a little better than you might think right now. That would be my personal insight. They looked pretty good last night, and I mean, Ty Jones doesn't ever have a bad team, I don't feel like. So
yeah, and that's great for Hillcrest to get a win without 2 starters also. So that's going to bode well for the Knights as they try to defend their 4A title from a year ago. But yeah, basketball off and running. Wrestling is right around the corner too. Don't forget our Mat Chat Prepcast starts next Tuesday, live 8 p.m. Mountain Time on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. All right, Sean, rest up. I know you got a PA announced several basketball games this week.
First boys basketball game for Century versus Thunder Ridge tonight at the Snake Pit. Should be a fun one. See what you just mentioned Ryan Frost will come up with. Kind of a new looking team for the Diamondbacks. Really, only the major player that comes back is Elias Blackhawk. Then it's gonna be a lot different look, and Thunder Ridge, well-coached team always, and it should be a battle.
Just like in football, you're going to be calling Hudson Harker's name a lot for Thunder Ridge.
Yeah, I saw Hudson Harker's on there, and a couple other guys look like they come back. And I think both teams, aren't the tallest of teams, but they both move really, really quick. So I'm hoping for a fast pace early home kind of night.
Yeah. Hey, Thunder Ridge never got back in touch with us for a preview, Sean. So send me some notes on what you see for our season preview.
Well, yeah, I tried to look them up because I'm doing the game. And I'm like, what the heck? But yeah, I'll mention it to their AD. I've got a good working relationship with him, and I'm willing to ruin it.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. All right. Have fun at the games. Enjoy the competition, everybody, but also please be respectful of other fans, other officials, and of course the kids. At the end of the day, it's only a game. All right. Everyone just relax. Take a step back. Let's
just go and have fun. I mean, just think of a couple of years ago, we couldn't even go watch the games live. So let's, it's a thing you only get to do for so long. If you're a high school kid, right, you have 4 years to be part of that and have fun with it, and just everyone have fun. Like, I just go and have fun because that's what it's about. And yeah, sometimes it gets gritty and tight, but at the end of the day, no one will remember it, but you'll remember the friend and your friends and the bonds you had with everyone and your coaches and things like that are way more important. So yeah, have fun and just be respectful.
Definitely. All right. Thanks for tuning into the East Idaho Prepcast, everybody. Enjoy the competitions this weekend. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney, and we will see you next time on IdahoSports.com.